If you ask a little kid, or a not so little kid, what their favorite planet is to look at through a telescope, you know what they probably will answer? Yeah, this guy. Again, not real size. Saturn. Why do people love to look at Saturn through a telescope? Why? What could it possibly be that people like to look at through a telescope and see when they look at Saturn? Yes, that's right, the rings. And yes, you really can see the rings of Saturn through a telescope. Many times I've had people claim that I was holding a little toy in front of the telescope because they can't believe that you can actually see the rings of Saturn with your own eyes. But here in week 6, you're going to be learning about what causes the rings of Saturn and how the rings of Saturn continue to be shaped by the gravity, there's the G word again, the gravity of all of Saturn's moons. Saturn has over 60 moons, and so does Jupiter, for that matter. Now, most of them are very small, mind you, but there are some moons that are rather large. Again, not real life size, but this is a globe of the moon Io. Io is one of the 4 large moons of Jupiter. They're called, as a group, the 4 of them, the Galilean moons because they were discovered by, you ready? Galileo. Now, the 4 Galilean moons are all about the size of our moon. They range from a bit bigger to a bit smaller, but, in terms of rough scale, around the size of our moon. But they all have very different personalities. Callisto is heavily cratered. Remember from a previous week that a body that's heavily cratered means that it has not been able to repave its surface. No road crew has come by and filled in the potholes. That means that that body kind of dead, kind of inactive, like our moon. But Io here, Io has basically no craters on it, but it has features. It has a load of volcanoes. That's right, a moon that has active volcanoes, and it's actually repaving itself continually through volcanic eruptions. So if you thought that planets were all exciting and moons were all boring, boy, you're in for a real treat this week, real surprise. So you're going to be looking at the 4, quote, Jovian planets this week, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. You're going to find that it's probably better to divide them into 2 subclasses, the gas giants and the ice giants. There's going to be an assignment where you specifically think about changing from talking about Jovians to those 2 subclasses. And you're going to be looking at their moons and their ring systems. Yes, all 4 of those planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, all 4 of them actually have ring systems. So how come Saturn gets to be called the ringed planet and the other 3 don't? Well, first of all, Saturn's rings were found first because they're easiest to see from the Earth. And you're going to learn why Saturn's rings are so much easier to see from an earthbound telescope than, let's say, Jupiter's, even though Jupiter is a lot closer to us than Saturn. And then we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. Yes, Pluto. Moment of silence for Pluto. Not really. Pluto's fine with being reclassified as a dwarf planet. Trust me. Pluto's feelings weren't hurt at all. Because Pluto has no feelings, right? It's an inanimate object. But sometimes people get really upset about reclassifying Pluto. But I want you to remember the basic idea that science is about learning new things and about correcting our mistakes. So as you learn about Pluto this week, compare it to the other planet, to the planets that you've learned about, and you'll have a better idea of why Pluto was reclassified into a dwarf planet. And dwarf planets will be a topic that will also be discussed next week as well. So have fun and make sure that if you really want it, you put a ring around it.